Hey there. I've had this channel for quite a while now. I used it many years ago when I started my first flights, just to get recordings onto YouTube to save my my testing and flights and all that stuff and some work I've done. But I never really tried to develop any kind of YouTube video channel with narration and editing and that sort of thing. So I'm going to try my hand at it, see how this works out. And a good time to do it is that my airplane is due for its condition inspection. This is a Lancair Legacy, so normally it's something you would call an annual on a certified plane, but since this isn't certified, there is no type certificate. So all we have to do is verify that it's in condition for safe flight. I'm gonna do a series of videos as I go through the annual. It usually takes me close to a week to get everything done. So I'm going to do a walk around of the airplane, kind of show the features, exterior, what it looks like, and then I'm going to do the cowl removal and sort of a tour of the engine compartment, just so you can see what's in there, the kind of decisions I made way back when I was building, and hopefully you find it interesting. So I'm going to start over on the right side, sort of the same sequence I would do a walk around. So in my checklist, I put that starting from behind the pilot's seat, just outside the entrance. Usually climb up the left side since you're flying from the left seat. And working my way backwards, I've got my static port here, which is a little hard to see, but it's right there, very faint. And I tried to make it subtle. I'm not too concerned about it getting blocked, and it's part of my free flight. Coming around this way, we've got the empennage. We actually, since this plane has been flying for 14 years now, it's actually got a little bit of paint loss from flying in the rain. Coming around here, all this stuff is stock Lancair, so it's got good quality bearings. Usually I'll jiggle this up and down to make sure there's no wear, because the prop wash on the 4Ps especially had a problem where the prop wash would create vibration on here and wear out this hinge up here. Same thing here. Make sure there's not excessive play in the trim tab. Free movement of the rudder. Same thing for this trim tab here. And same on this side, no damage, no dirt, no unexpected holes or anything. Give it a good wiggle. Come around this side. There's a second static port, which is right here. Can I get a little closer? And just make sure that's clear. One thing that was interesting on the Lancairs is they made a very nice pin for the aileron hinge. If you'll notice, there's a recessed area around here. Let me try and turn it so the light's showing a little better. And they had a button head bolt, which would fit through there, totally flush, to make it streamlined. And then on this side was a circlip. So instead of a nut and bolt like you see here, it was very short, didn't stick out far at all. The idea being to reduce drag. The problem that created was that because it was a circlip, there was no clamping force. And inside of here is a spherical bearing. So the spherical bearing is supposed to be held by the ears of this outer clevis and rotate, and that didn't happen. There was play, it would rattle, and if left unchecked, it would eventually wear out the hole and elongate it, and then you'd have even more play. So I just went with, as you can see on both sides, I just went with a regular nut and bolt, and I had to sacrifice a little bit of drag just to make that work. Under here, let's see if we can get this to focus in the dark. Check all my wheels. Here's my hoses. I do have an issue that I'm going to look at during this inspection very closely, which is that these hydraulic lines here, if you can see this one, yeah, I'm facing the light, so it's not good, but there was a plastic coating on these which wore off, and now you can see some exposed, let me see if I can get focus. You can see the exposed braid, which if it chafes against anything will cause a lot of damage. So I'm going to go and do a real good inspection on that, make sure that we're not cutting through any fuel lines or anything. Over here's the brake. So usual Cleveland wheels and brakes. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Ailerons, these can be a bit of an issue over time because it's a simple piano hinge and they wear out. You've got a steel pin riding in an aluminum loop system. So try and wiggle it front to back, up and down, make sure everything's snug. Over here, this was a recent addition. I went with standard lights. So they're a xenon strobe and incandescent bulbs for the nav and position lights. And when I first ordered the kit back in 2000, I ordered the lighting system to go with it, because back at that time, LED wingtip lights and landing lights and all that weren't even on the horizon. So it didn't occur to me that you might need, there might be better options out there. So if there was a compelling reason, I might someday upgrade, because it would draw a bit less current, weigh a little less, but I have a working airplane. It really doesn't affect much of anything. You notice this antenna? This is something I designed. It's a 3D printed piece of plastic with antenna elements inside. And it is the transponder antenna. And if you look closely, you can kind of see the dark antenna element vertically in the middle. The reason for this was, if you're flying outside the US, a lot of times they don't have ground-based ADS-B stations. So this one broadcasts up and down. So for example, in Canada, their ADS system ADS-B is satellite-based. So that means that they don't have ground stations. When you're flying in very remote areas, you won't be in contact. They won't be able to track you. So it's a safety thing, and it's also going to be a requirement soon enough in Canada. So this is a Dynon pitot tube, heated with an angle of attack probe at the bottom, and I put my temperature sensor out here. I originally had put it in the fresh air duct, this NACA scoop here, but the readings weren't accurate because of warm air coming off the engine. So it's a good place to put it. It's actually on the access panel. So when you drop that access panel, it comes down with it, and it's easy in case you ever need to service it. Dynon pitot tubes are thermostatically controlled. So mounted to the rib inside here is a control box, which cycles it on and off. And I actually measured it recently, and it holds it between 155 and 175 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's, you can leave it on. If you forget to turn it off, you don't have to worry about overheating anything, which is a good thing. Coming over here, this is the cowling. I'm gonna be removing that today, so we'll talk a little bit about how mine attaches. You notice I did come up with a system. Well, I didn't come up with it. A guy in Germany actually logged in on his blog, so I copied what he did, which is no external fasteners visible. They use this hinge pins everywhere. And I've added an access door here. This is actually a cabinet latch. You just push the back, quarter turn. And over here, you can see this hinge pin. It's just the hinge pin. You can grab it right there and pull on it. Looking down in, you can see, if any of you have ever flown a Cessna, you might recognize the fuel strainer. So you can just reach your hand in here and pull on the fuel strainer to open it. Backing out, underneath, here's the drain. You can see that's the drain, so you hold your fuel tester down there to measure fuel. Let's close that. Looks like I've got a neighbor coming by. This airplane uses carb hinge, so these are actually carbon fiber piano hinges. And you can see here there's a threaded rod. So this is actually just a short threaded section, and then a stainless steel hinge pin that goes back that way. And so you unscrew this with an Allen key and then pull it straight out. And there's some quarter turn fasteners here holding the upper cowl. So we remove these two hinge pins, pull that hinge pin I showed you over there, and that's how you get the upper cowling out. Coming over to here, this is the oil door. Once again, no external fasteners. It's on spring-loaded tracks. So you just push down at the back and slide it forward, and there's your dipstick so you can check your oil level. Talking about underneath, well, actually, I'll do the underneath when I get on the creeper. Same thing over here. This is an issue I've been battling. There is joint gap seal tape, which is a 3M UHMW, ultra high molecular weight tape. It's supposed to be very long lasting and durable. It does take a beating in the rain, so you can see it's worn through at this gap here. I did try to remove it once, but I think it's broken down a little bit due to sun exposure. So I'm gonna have to make that a future project on the medium level priority list, because this is primarily cosmetic. It's just there to cover the gap. It doesn't do much functionally. Coming around, here's one of my fuel caps, standard engraved, fuel capacity, all that stuff. Had a place in Connecticut do that for me. The Legacy is standard, has a fuel vent here. Let's see if I can get that right here. This takes pressurized air to keep the tank slightly above ambient level, and it also has a check valve. If you top off the tanks on a cool morning and then park it in the sun, it will overflow out there and dribble down the bottom of the wing. So that's always something to keep in mind. Either fill it up in the afternoon or keep in the shade after you top off. Coming around, same side, same thing over on this side. Aileron check. Here's a trim tab. Let's see, hinge, flap hinges, wheels and brakes, all pretty standard. We're going to get on the creeper now and go underneath, talk about that. So starting from the back, let me zoom out a little bit. I've got very small number of antennas on the bottom. You can see here, this is an ADS-B in antenna that is used by the Dynon. There's an ADS-B in receiver, and so you get independent traffic and weather on the multifunction display. Here's my comm antenna, which is a single radio, which is attached to a GTN 750 XI. And I've only got one radio on this airplane. It's worked out just fine. You can monitor standby. The only time it's a nuisance is if you're talking to ATC and you're trying to get ATIS at the same time. Sometimes you have to be a little bit patient to hear what they have to say, to hear the ATIS finish up. Now over here, some of these are sort of legacy equipment. So at the time this airplane came out, in around 2000, people were still using marker beacons. So the marker beacon antenna, it could go here. There's a recess and it fits in very nicely. However, given that we've been living in the 21st century for quite some time now, nobody uses marker beacons anymore. So I just made a blank plate and closed that off. This is the former location of the transponder antenna, which is now out on the wingtip there. So this one only broadcast down, so ground stations could receive your mode C and your ADS-B out. So this is just blanked off with a piece of plastic. But as a precaution, I did leave the cable in there. So if I ever wanted to go back to using the belly transponder antenna, I just got to take this off, connect the new antenna cable, screw on 4 screws with the new one, and then go in the back and reattach the cable at the remote transponder. And since we're talking about antennas, I neglected to mention that there's antennas in the wingtip. The body of the wing is carbon fiber, but if you draw an imaginary line from the end of this aileron up, everything from here over is fiberglass. So in this space, there's actually 2 antennas. There's a VOR antenna, which is the tape kind, where it's just a flat strip of aluminum and a ground plane. And then also additionally in here is a GPS antenna for the Dynon. So I put these on the left, I put the transponder on the right because the transponder is kind of high power. So I figured putting them further away from each other was probably a good idea. Finally, in the GTN 750, which you can see in the center console there, has got its antenna under the glare shield here. Glare shield is fiberglass. The canopy is obviously plexiglass. So it gets terrific reception. There's really no issues there. One thing you'll notice here is that the gear doors are up. I did modify this airplane to use a sequence gear door system so that once the gear extends, the doors close, and then when you retract the gear, the doors open, the gear comes up, and then the doors close, the same way that a P-51 Mustang works. Coming around this way, I want to talk about the nose gear doors a little bit. So you'll notice one thing about these doors is they open beyond 90 degrees. And in order to get the bottom cowling off, you have to close these part way. They're spring loaded to the open position, but if you push them like that, now you can drop the cowling straight down to clear the spinner, and then you go forward between the propeller blades, and that's how you get it out. So over here, I'll show this in a minute also when I do the cowl removal. There is a bracket when the nose gear comes back. It hits this. You see this roller right here, it hits this, and that's what pulls the nose gear doors closed. So I have a device that attaches between these two linkages, and that'll close the nose gear doors enough, and you don't have to stand there and hold it while you're trying to get the cowling off. I was going to cover a little bit more in this video, but it's turning out longer than I expected. I already started the editing process. I'm kind of getting my hand in that to see how that works and learn the tool. But for the time being, I think we're going to wrap it up here. In future videos, I'll uncowl the engine, like I said, and do a tour of the engine compartment, show you what's in there, how it's laid out, how it differs from standard Lancair Legacy factory recommendations. But in the meantime, I'm going to finish editing this and get it posted. And while I'm searching for a better sign-off phrase, I will see you guys in the air.